Hi, this is Scott. It's been a while since I did a video, and if you remember where I left you, I had been reviewing long lenses and comparing them, my Fuji, to my Panasonic S5. In particular, I compared this 70-300 to the 70-200 on the Lumix, but I put a 2x extender on this one because I wanted to get to 400. And I wanted to see if I could do that with this, and which would give me better quality. Now I came from that one with pretty much a draw. So I would say it was mainly a win for the Fuji 70-300. But now I have a new contender. This guy over here, a Sigma 100-400. And that's what we're going to talk about. But I'm also going to do another video. I'm going to talk about this forgotten one, which I had reviewed in the past. So definitely come back to my next video, because we're going to look at this guy and this guy. But for now, let's get rid of the 70-200, and let's get rid of this 50-230. And let's concentrate on these two. And just to be fair, that's the hood for that one. That's the hood for that one. So obviously we have a much bigger lens. And if you're familiar with APS-C and the Fuji versus a full frame 35 over here, we can kind of expect that. And whereas before I had to put a 2x extender onto my 70-200 to get it up to 400, now we have a lens that is natively brings us to 400. Which, to be honest, still brings it a little bit short, because when we convert the focal length, APS-C, it's kind of an equivalent of about a 450. So this one still has a little bit of an edge there. But for the sake of argument, I'm going to say they are similar. So everyone's familiar with what this one looks like and quality that I've done with it. And I'm going to compare it to this one. But let me go ahead and put this guy on the side, because this one is going to be our main discussion today. Let me go ahead and pull this up a little so I'm not crouching over. It's a Sigma lens. As most people know, Sigma has really come up quality-wise from when I was a boy to now in my borderline dotage. Sigma is really making nice lenses. And this one is no exception. I like the build of it. I like the feel of it. A lot of people get critical about a little plastic here and there. I have no problems with that, as long as it's quality, and I find everything about this lens is quality. And it is a 67mm filter thread, and that's kind of important. And to me, oddly enough, this one is also 67mm. This 70-300, the Fuji. Just an interesting side note. The reason that I like the idea of a 67mm thread is because my 20-60 on Panasonic is a 67. The new 85, the 50, the 35, and the 24 are all 67mm filter threads. So that to me is really appealing. Some others maybe could care less, but to me it's a big deal. I like that. So that's a selling point for me. Because I should add, let me tilt this up a little bit more. I really was thinking about buying the 150-600 because I wanted the reach. I wanted a nice long nature lens in my case. And I actually ordered, or I should say pre-ordered, the 150-600. As the months were going by and I was getting older, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I want that reach. Everything I've heard, this lens is like really nice. I would like to know for myself. But I started, looking at the stats again, and got it written down here. Put everything in perspective. That Fuji is a 1.3 pound lens. The Sigma 100 to 400 is a 2.5 pound lens. And a lot of people are going, oh, stay with the Fuji. And I would say agree, pound's a pound, but I don't find the pound to be that much of an issue. But the 150 to 600 is 4.6 pounds. That's like adding a little bit more than 2 pounds more. It's like approaching 2 of these. It's like carrying this one and this one and more. So I started going soul searching. It's like, is this going to end up being a lens that I leave in my bag because it's too heavy and it's too big? And would I be better off with the 100 to 400, which just so happens has that 67mm filter thread? So I came to the conclusion that for now, this was the one for me. So going off on that tangent, let's get back to this lens. I like the build on it. It is missing. I have it comes with it doesn't come with a lens foot. It comes with a rubber band thing that fits over here and covers up these. There is a foot available from Sigma, and there are also third-party alternatives. I have a third-party alternative. I'm not going to go into it in this video. I will do a second video to discuss it. So if you are a foot person, which I am, for when I do want to put it onto a tripod, and I also like holding it by the foot when I'm carrying it around. So it's kind of got multi-purpose to me. So looking at the other features of the lens, it has a clip here to stop it, to lock this, but if you flip it, then you can extend the lens, so it is an extending design. It does come with a nice hood. Get that lined up, which makes it even bigger, but that's the case with every lens. But the zoom mechanism feels really nice. Truly like it. The focusing mechanism feels nice. It has all the switches you would like to see. It's got OIS in the lens, so it has 2 settings and off for OIS. It has a focus limiting switch so that you can, by basically setting it to the long range, it doesn't go down to the close focusing range, so it reduces the amount of hunting or the length of hunting. So that's a nice feature. So you can either have it in the full range for AF, or you can put it into the long range. So that is a nice bonus. AF on and off. It has a button that can be assigned. I haven't paid much attention, so I don't know what it is assigned to now. But that's the basic features of the lens. I've had it for a while now, and I like it. But the big question, because I'm doing some soul searching, I'll go into the reasons as to why, but I need to cut down on my equipment. Got some wrinklage going there. Cut down on my equipment, and I was debating, I kind of made the argument that, hey, if you want a long lens, instead of buying a 2x converter and for my 70 to 200 on my Lumix, I'd better off just keeping my Fuji X-T3 and buying their 100 to 300. But I was curious, if I did go to a lens like this, which 100 400, so now in the same range, what would the quality difference be? And would the quality be justifiable enough to me to carry that extra pound? Because the other interesting thing is, let me go ahead and put these so they're comparable. Even though it is smaller, it's not the end of the world smaller, but that pound does add up. But these lenses are similarly priced. So one could argue I'm getting a lot more for my money. But, you know, this is a nice lens too. So they're both nice lenses, and they're comparable in price. So the savings argument that I made by not going and buying the 2x converter for the 70 to 200 no longer comes into play, because if I just get this lens or keep this lens, that's no longer an argument. But the real question is, okay, it's an extra pound, how does it compare quality-wise? So like I said, if the quality is there, I don't mind carrying an extra pound because the pound ain't gonna kill me. So we're gonna go to the computer. I took some pictures, not an extensive amount, but enough for me to see what the quality between the two looks like. So let's go take a look at that. Okay, here's our images. I am working in Capture One. That is my editor of choice and has been for quite a few years. The top one is the Fuji, the DSC kind of gives it away here, and Panasonic. The files start with a P. For people who haven't seen it before, you'll see the ISO is right here, the shutter speed, the aperture, and the lens millimeters. Now the Fuji is an APS-C, so it's actually not 300, it's 340, 50, somewhere in that range. And if you look, you can see it is a slightly larger. If you look at this picture, hopefully it translates well to your monitor at home, but you'll see there's a little bit more kick to the Panasonic. And one of the things I found before is that I really kind of need to automatically kind of put a 20 structure on the 70 to 300 Fuji lens to get it looking good. Now let me go ahead and zoom in. You'll see a little cursor pops up here that basically tells you it's loading the file. So sometimes when you see these first load, they won't be at their full resolution. Let me line up the turtle here. Again, no huge difference, but starting to see one of the things I noticed about the Panasonic that personally I like, and I think you can do some little bit of adjusting, but there just seems to be a little bit better contrast, a little bit more of a kick to their file. You know, when I pushed up the structure on the Fuji, it improves it, but I'm kind of surprised at how much I have to kick it up to get it, you know, on the same baseline. One could say maybe the Panasonic has too much going on, but let's look at the background and see what it looks like in the corners. See anything too major there. So that's, one picture. So let's go to our next one. And this one is of a heron. One of the other things I noticed about the Fuji, and I have adjusted it here, is using matrix metering, I would get horrible exposures, so I had to go with average. And because otherwise I would be getting something more like you see in the Panasonic. Now with the Panasonic, it's very easy for me to go in here and pull those highlights down, and maybe we'll back up just a little and probably pull the highlights down a little on the Fuji as well. But I'm definitely liking the feathers here, but again, I need to go in and give that a structure boost to the Fuji. So again, it's better exposed up here. But I'm still kind of liking the sharpness and stuff on the and again, I'm not taking these at the same time. I'm taking them kind of one after another, so they're not exactly in the same type of lighting, and the bird is moving. But after playing with it a little bit, I think there's a little bit of a plus to the Panasonic one after adjustment, but not a ton. Definitely got some more detail back here versus up here, but we can maybe pull out the shadows. So maybe we're getting a little bit more depth there. So let's look at this next one. Super simple, just a sign. Again, here's the Fuji, here's the Panasonic. Background blur, kind of comparable. Again, always given that a little bit of boost. But not seeing a huge monster difference. We'll zoom in. And again, not a whole lot of difference after we compensate. Now we're essentially looking at the Panasonic straight up as it comes into Capture One, whereas we're having to play with the Fuji to get it up to par. Let's look at this next one. Just a bark on a tree. Okay, here is the Fuji. Here's the Panasonic. Again, we seem to have that crispiness. So let's go ahead and give that 20 structure to the Fuji. See if that helps. And let's take a same spot on this tree. I think that's the same spot. Oh, it's at 100. That's at 100. Okay. There we go. So this corresponds to here. So you can see in the Panasonic, we're getting some brighter highlights. We're also seeing into these shadows a little bit deeper. But again, Panasonic here, I'd probably take these highlights down. Maybe I'd take them down a little on the Fuji as well. Still liking the Panasonic better, and I basically need to pull those shadows up. Maybe pull them up a little bit there. Take this out. So again, there's just this kind of sparkle vibrance that I'm getting in the Panasonic that I really like. And go ahead and look at this wall. Oddly enough, we see variation in color, but that is not unusual, even though these are pretty much shot in what would be considered their standard mode. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to tell this one daylight. It doesn't seem to do well, so let's call it cloudy. And we'll go over to this one and also call it cloudy. Which again, we're getting that vibrancy here. I'm going to go ahead and put that one back to shot. Okay, there we go. This shot and this cloudy look to be a better color combo. Let's zoom in. Not seeing huge monster difference. Again, we can go into the Fuji and we just have to give it that extra structure to get it to be more again, boring wall, but yeah, similar. Now this shot, I remember this one, you can just kind of let's get these same size. You can really see that vibrance, brightness, whatever, kicking in on the Panasonics. I just really like that quality. But again, we'll go ahead and pump up the structure. So that helps with the Fuji. It's not so bad. I mean, just look at how vibrant that is in there. Again, not exactly the same spots. It's not like these were on a tripod or anything. So there's a lot of reasons they're not similar. But I can't find any place that I see this kind of vibrance in the Fuji compared to the Panasonic. You know, just you'd think even if it was just a matter of where it was focusing, that somewheres I would see that kind of beauty kicking up on the other. Here's a little bit of this one. What if we look at the detail in that leaf. I'm just not finding that on the Fuji side. So I mean, I got to give that picture. That one to me is more attractive. And here's another boring sign. Let's go ahead and give these both an auto levels. There's the Fuji, there's the Panasonic. I mean, Panasonic is doing more for me there. Although up close, Fuji's looking a little bit better. Could be a focus issue. Yeah, it looks like it's where it decided to focus. Yeah, I mean, I just see a vibrance to these. Let's look at top of these sea oats. Guess they're sea oats. First look,
not, you know, again, I'm seeing that vibrance, but let's go in here and kick that structure up. You know, one would hope one wouldn't have to do that, but it just seems to be part of what Fuji needs. And go ahead and zoom in. And this is one of these things that, you know, if I wasn't sitting here literally combining one to the other, I wouldn't necessarily see that there's a difference, but just having them head to head, I'm just seeing this vibrancy that I'm getting out of that. So I don't know what to say. And I really like this this tree. Again, this is the Fuji up here. The Panasonic. Excuse my poor framing. And again, there's just this vibrancy to this one. But let's go ahead and kick up the Fuji one. I still like the Panasonic better. Let's go to that 100% zoom in. Highlights and shadows are kind of similar. Maybe this one's, the highlights are a little bit hotter. They could be taken down, but it doesn't change the overall. So again, I'm liking that Sigma. Actually, I've been saying Panasonic. It was Sigma lens on the Panasonic. Here we got this. I believe that with that hook in the bill, that this is a cormorant. Somebody can probably point that out in the down below if you back me on that. And again, you get, look at the, you know, there's this vibrancy. But let's go ahead again. I always say that Fuji just needs some structure. Obviously, a way different take on the background. Let's go ahead, and that one's daylight. That one's fine weather. Well, that didn't change much. Shot versus shot. Yeah, definitely different takes on the background. I think maybe this one's more as it should be. The other thing I noticed about this shot, obviously there's some vignetting going on. Being these are raw, Capture One is not automatically fixing it. Not that that's a big deal, because if we go in here, you know, it's easy enough to kick that back. But, you know, look at these pictures. Again, by themselves, you wouldn't necessarily say one's that much better than the other. But, you know, head to head, I like this one. Let's get another one. Here's another pair of cormorants. I know ahingas hang out here too. So again, looking a little sharper. Again, that vibrancy, but we'll go up here and we will kick in that 20 on structure. Push this back. Let's back out of this. No. It is minor, but still Panasonic. Let's pull up some shadow detail in both of those. Yeah. So, you know, I'm seeing what I'm seeing. Again, here's another view on this tree. Oh. So here we brought it up. Wait for him. Again, this vibrancy that happens on the Panasonic. And bring the structure up. on the Fuji. So again, if I didn't have these to compare against each other, I think they were both pictures. I really like this tree. And let's go in here. Again, that contrast is just nicer. And again, we kicked that one up. It's just not doing it. Let's bring up the shadows back there. Bring up the shadows back here. Oh, didn't even know all these turtles were back here. All hanging in the leaves. Pretty funny. Yeah, so I just kind of like that vibrancy that's in the Panasonic. And then this is same tree from the opposite side. Again, look at the vibrancy of that tree versus here. It's almost dead in comparison. But you know, go ahead, give it that structure. It still does not kick it up enough. Look at the base of it. No, I personally like the Panasonic. I'd be interested for you guys to tell me what you think below. And here is, this guy is called a Limpkin. And neither one of these was a great place to take this picture. This is also a good argument for where, you know, bird photography and stuff really starts at like 600 because we're still pretty far away. But I'm going to go pull up the shadows here and pull up the shadows here. They're about the same. I'm going to go over here and give that structural boost. And down here, I think I'm going to take these highlights down a little. And again, they're slightly different areas, so the lighting is not 100% the same. So let's take a look directly at the Limpkin. These guys hunt for shells on the side. They eat the apple snails and clams. In fact, you can see some clam shells and snail shells on the side after he's been through. So definitely, you know, to me, it has I think it's part of that contrast. But it just appears to be sharper. So I'm gravitating towards, again, that Sigma lens. Let's look at our last one. That's kind of a boring shot. What kind of gives you an idea. I'll go ahead and we'll both a little hot, so take some highlights off both of those. Yeah, so even on this one, there's just, you know, there's a little bit more vibrancy to it. So personally, my opinion is that Sigma lens on the Panasonic is giving me a little bit more of something. But let me give you a an argument for the Fuji. This is about as close as you can get with the Sigma 100 to 400, whereas the Fuji has a better macro kind of capability. And that was also something the Sigma 150 to 600 has. It has a closer focusing capability, so a little bit more of a macro function. And that's like a big selling point too. But that's it. I mean, this is the, the results I've found. Let me just go back and take a look at something like this one. Just I could go in here and I could give it a little, take out a little more of the shadow or the highlight, or maybe even take down the exposure. I still liking the looks of that better. So that's that. Let me back up and we'll discuss this some more. Well, that's kind of something I didn't notice before. Look how good this one looks, and I must have nudged the shutter and moved it up to 2000. And this is actually an ISO 3200 shot, and this is an ISO 800 shot over here, and that's one of the things that is kind of I keep on noticing with the Panasonic is it's really got low ISO capabilities are great. But let's back out and we'll give you my final word.
Okay, well, there you have it. Looking at the images, I made my comments while we were looking, but definitely, again, the Fuji, straight out of the camera into Capture One, the Fujis need something. They need to get that structure to get them up to par, and it was the same case with the 70 to 200 with the 2x. I needed to bring that structure on the Fuji up to about 20. Not that anyone has to be feeling bad or inferior, it's just that that's something that it needed. Even with that, I liked the quality that's coming out of the Sigma on the Lumix S5. It just seems to have a little more punch. I like that look that it's giving. Over here, how do you guys feel about it? But to me, again, I would not feel bad owning either one, but I did like what I saw coming out of that Sigma. So definitely a great lens. It is a shame, though, that it doesn't have the close focusing ability that the 70 to 300 has, which from my understanding is the 150 to 600 also excels at that point, that it can focus closer, so you've got a kind of a pseudo macro in that, and that I won't have with the Sigma, and that's a bummer. So what do you think? Keep watching, because I am going to go and review some other things, and then I'm going to make a decision about where I'm going, and I'll tell you why. So see you next time.